This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you? If people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else. Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
What you're hearing are the sounds of people everywhere putting on Bombas socks, underwear, and T-shirts made from absurdly soft materials that feel like plush clouds. Yeah, that plush. And the best part? For every item you purchase, Bombas donates another to someone facing homelessness.
Bombas. Big comfort for everyone. Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
Hiring for your small business? If you're not looking for professionals on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. That's like looking for your car keys in a fish tank. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So start looking in the right place. With LinkedIn, you can hire professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/spoken today.
Pursuing your future doesn't end at 40. In fact, it may mark the beginning of knowing who you are, what you're capable of, and what you really want. But knowing what's next and how to get there can be a challenge, especially when old narratives play on repeat. Liberty Road is here to share stories so that you can consider your possibilities, pursue your purpose, and move into your future with intention. I'm your host, Netta Jones, and we're here to listen, learn, and liberate dreams, one episode at a time. Well, hello, Liberty listeners. Welcome to another episode of Liberty Road. Today, you guys get to listen in on a conversation from a woman who has started her empire, her shoe empire, from a very, very early age. And as she stepped into midlife, we're going to hear about the changes and what's evolved for her. Jennet Chow of Evolution Design Lab, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Netta.
We've been talking about doing this for a long time, so we're finally doing it. It finally fit in with your world travel schedule. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. So tell us a little bit about what is Evolution Design Lab?
Evolution Design Lab is a company I started in 2009. I was 29 years old, actually. And we pretty much do everything under the sun for footwear. We design, manufacture, take care of the whole supply chain. We take care of the very start of design and all the way to the factory levels from sourcing. And we take care of the shipping, the technology behind it. We even do trend reports with our accounts, as well as creating lines, specific lines for people, because we do women and kids shoes. Our main brand is Jellypop, but we also do a lot of private label. So we help people develop lines as well.
These are brands we've all heard about. This is like next level. Yes.
Mud footwear, which is huge in the 90s.
Yeah. And so how does one get started in the shoe industry, especially what you've talked about, going from soup to nuts? You guys cover everything. Tell us a little bit about your background. I do know, because I've done my research and we've talked, I do know that you literally started as a young child with your parents waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, setting up shop at these swap meets. I mean, you've been a part of the industry for a long time, but how do you actually get in there and start running this business?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a huge history in the footwear business ever since I was 4 or 5 years old, helping them in the back of a truck, loading up shoes and actually displaying shoes at swap meets with them. And I even remember back then, we didn't have much budget. My dad was working multiple jobs. My mom was too. My dad was an engineer. My mom was a waitress. And on the weekends, we would do the swap meets. And I would even sit in the back of a truck with ice to stay cool with all the boxes. So it was just really gritty.
Yeah.
Looking back, I'm pretty amazed at what they did. So I would learn from them, and I would see how their work ethic was. And I remember eventually seeing them decide to quit their day jobs and focus 100% on the footwear industry. And I saw them grow their business into a huge enterprise. And I was always along the way because I knew how to sketch and my mom didn't. So she would make me help her sketch her ideas, and so would my dad. And I would learn from my dad because he knew how to draw. But at 14 years old, he had a heart attack. Thankfully, he was able to do a quadruple bypass, and it took many years to recover, and he stopped working. So I started really getting involved at 14 in high school and designing shoes. And around that time was when we were having licenses and everything. Mm-hmm. They had another business partner, and we started just growing and getting into more department stores. And I would see my designs at these department stores on people's feet. And that was so inspiring to me. And I knew from a very early age that this is exactly what I wanted to do.
You would think you'd go the opposite way and you'd be like, I need to get away from this business. I've been in it. But you leaned in. I mean, you were inspired. Yeah. You saw your work. What 14-year-old gets to see that? That's pretty amazing. But what do you think kept you moving in that direction?
So many different things. First of all, the community that my parents had built when they started their business. They started hiring people, and they treated their employees like family. And I remember, because I didn't have a babysitter, they couldn't afford one, I would always be at the office, and I'd see them build this family. I'm like, just thinking about it. Oh my gosh, Netta Jones. I call her Oprah Winfrey.
It happens.
So I would see what an impact they made on these people's lives and families. And that's what I wanted to do also. It wasn't just about the shoes. It was so much more. And then I also saw the confidence it gave to women and kids when they put on a pair of shoes. That was huge to me as well.
I want to lean into that a little bit more because that work has gone on to inspire you to help so many other people to create their own vision in the entrepreneurial space in particular. But let me back up first because I want people to get the full story. So when your parents are putting shoes in the back of a U-Haul, let's call it, and taking them to swap meets, they're selling at that point finished products. They're importing these finished products and selling them? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so we got really lucky. My dad had an uncle who had factories in Taiwan. At the time, most of the shoes were manufactured in Taiwan, specifically Taichung, Taiwan. And he manufactured Puma, Nike shoes. And my dad, being the entrepreneur mindset as he was, would look around for opportunities. And he called his uncle and said, what could I do to help raise this family I have? Because the engineering job at Edison is not paying enough. So my uncle told him, he could ship some shoes from friends from the footwear industry to him. And basically my dad was like a jobber type. So he would buy this container of shoes, not knowing exactly what was in it, and sold it.
Move product.
Yeah, and move product.
So this is what was happening when you were 4 and 5 years old.
Yes.
This is you holding the bag of ice to stay cool in the back. And then at some point when your mom decides to leave her job as a waitress and your dad decides to leave his job as an engineer at Edison, are they continuing to do that kind of work, or are they getting more involved at levels in the supply chain?
Yes. Actually, this has nothing to do with our brand name Jellypop. We don't do jelly shoes, which some people automatically assume, but they ended up importing a lot of jelly shoes. They decided to start a store in downtown LA where Santee Fashion District is. And they had a huge shoe sign outside of their store. I think it was called Teen Stride. And they sold the shoes and also had a warehouse full of jelly shoes. And eventually Bobby Bruce Levy, who was a singer from New York, the wife was an artist. They were in LA looking for someone to help manufacture the shoes that his artist wife envisioned. And there's so many one-way streets in downtown LA. He completely got lost, but saw this huge shoe sign on top of my dad's shoe store and just walked in and started talking to my dad and was like, do you think you could make these shoes for me? If you could make these shoes, I could sell them to all the stores, department stores that you could imagine. He's pretty much pitching his idea.
Yeah.
And my dad looks at him like he's crazy. And it's a white Caucasian man, very charismatic.
Yeah.
And he just said, okay, I'll try. I'll see what it is. It was a lace over flower sneaker. Remember, this is in the 80s.
Yeah.
Madonna made lace over flower sneakers, super popular. And then he manufactured it. Bobby ended up getting into all the biggest department stores, Magnin, Bloomingdale's, Bullock's. Anyone remember Bullock's?
Yes,
you have 40 plus year olds.
Yeah, this audience remembers those stores. Yes.
Broadway, Robinson's May.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
May Company.
All of it.
Oh my gosh. And so they grew from there and started Prima Royale Enterprises, the three of them, Bobby, my mom, and my dad.
Bobby's the other partner.
Yeah. They became partners.
Okay.
Yeah, they became partners. And Bobby became the face of the company. And he was wonderful. He became like my uncle and my mentor, actually. He was the one who's like, can Jennet come in and start sketching again? Because he couldn't sketch either. But he had tons of ideas.
So your dad has a quadruple bypass.
Yes.
Your dad's okay, but has to retire.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bobby ends up sort of stepping in, not just as the face of the brand, but helping to run things, probably taking over what your dad was doing. You're still needed, and you're 14 years old. You're still needed to do the sketching.
Yes.
You're inspired by this. You see your shoes on other people. What happens between 14 years old and the college years?
Yeah.
How are you tethered to the company, and how are you sort of free to go back to school?
Right. Yeah, it was between Bobby and my mom who took care of the company. They became best friends. It was amazing. Bobby has since passed, unfortunately, but he was the best partner that they could have ever had in life. Oh, gosh. But, okay, so I remember this was one of the most difficult times of my life because my dad had post-traumatic depression, and actually he had to not have any sound. In addition, my mom was often taking him to the hospitals for checkups and physical therapy for his lungs. I didn't have a lot of parenting during that age. And I'm an only child. By the way, this is what Jensen Huang of NVIDIA talks about suffering. People who suffer very young, I have many other suffering stories, make you stronger.
Yeah.
So very hard, but I still had to go to school. I was still helping at the company whenever I could. I tried my best to get straight A's, but a lot of times, even in my Calc AB class, I was one of the top math students. Math came easily to me. But I would just always look out the window and think, what is the point of all this? What is the point of learning Calc AB? When am I ever going to use this?
Yeah.
I've always questioned everything I do, and I questioned the school system, to be honest. I'm on the board of a school. I really shouldn't say this, but
no,
I
it's
questioned
good
it a lot.
because we know we've got somebody objective in there asking good questions. I think it's great.
But I remember telling my parents, I'm going to help you guys continue this company. And then they would be like, are you sure? This is very difficult. We don't want a difficult life for you. You'd have to travel too much. You have to deal with businessmen who could manipulate you, etc. And my mom also warned me, an Asian woman face cannot be the face of an American company. That was huge. And because I questioned everything, I questioned her. And as a contrarian, I was like, I'm going to show you. Actually, that fueled me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That ended up really fueling me. And Bobby, like I said, was an incredible uncle to me. And he believed in me. And he really lifted me up and would talk to my mom and say, you need to believe in your daughter. She could do this. I could see she could do this. So did our production manager. She would say, Jennet, you should go to China. You should go to New York for the shows. And my mom's like, no, she needs to focus on school. She needs to do this.
This was in high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the shows are in June, August, December, February. So I would go to the summer shows. And then because my mom was involved in taking care of my dad, they didn't really check on me for school, just occasionally checking to make sure I'm not flunking. I get into a couple schools, but I end up going to the school that was out of state in Boston. And when I was there, I remember also questioning, what is the point of all this?
Yeah.
Because my dad started getting healthier 4 years later, and he would write me letters. Oh, we just got this mud license. We're moving our office from Taichung, Taiwan to China, and this is really exciting. And when I would read these letters he'd send to me, I was thinking, this is such a huge opportunity for me to learn.
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
When I could be doing there.
Exactly.
Being there, really learning.
Exactly. And I knew in my heart that the right thing to do was drop out of school.
Okay, so I don't know where you went to school that year. I know where you went to some other schools, but you were saying in Boston, so we can bet that it was probably a prestigious school.
Oh, no. Unfortunately, it was not. I didn't even apply to a prestigious school because I didn't know about it. Keep in mind, there was no internet.
Yeah. We're both of us are the children of immigrants. That's not high expectations, but they don't know how to get us there.
Oh, no. Exactly. There was no college counselor.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything. They were like, just go to some UC school. That's all I knew. But then my best friend was like, oh, I'm going to apply to Boston University. And then she gave me the pamphlet. I mean, I shouldn't admit this, but I saw
a cute boy on the
Creek.
front. Yeah.
No, Dawson's Creek. The girl on Dawson's Creek went to BU. So I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to this school.
I can go there.
And then I could eat lobsters and stuff. That was my mindset. So I go there, and Thanksgiving break, I decide I'm going to pursue what I want to do. And I didn't tell my mom until I packed my bags. I don't even know how I figured out how to buy the tickets to get home. Wow. And I surprised them. I was like, I'm going to help you guys with this business.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Surprise, I'm not going back to college. I'm going to help you with this business, which is probably bittersweet for them because, one, their hard work and like all parents is so we create a future for our kids. On the other hand, what a blessing to have their daughter who has really the future of the business in mind, to have her come in and help somebody that they completely trust, whether they believed that you were mature enough or not. They trusted that you knew a lot about the business. So you come back from college, you say you're going to stay. In what capacity are you working for the business?
My dad was actually surprisingly supportive. It's funny because he was like trying to explain to my mom, okay, it's okay. Steve Jobs also did not graduate from college. I'm no Steve Jobs, but it was nice that he mentioned that. And Bill Gates. Yeah. I think there was only 2 very successful people at the time that dropped out of college. This is in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then I tried to make it up for my mom. She was very disappointed. She's like, oh, your cousins went to college.
That's of course.
Constantly in my face about that. But I said, I'm really going to help you guys. I actually started hiring at the age of 18 when I started looking into fashion schools. I told her, I'm going to go to fashion school and work for you guys at the same time. I could do this. I could apply what I learned. Because again, I was thinking, I want to learn to apply. Like that's my thing.
Yeah.
So when I went to FIDM, I saw that there was a footwear program. I ended up, from 18 to 21, I hired a team of 10 people on our design team and marketing team. And we pretty much quadrupled our business during that time. I also started traveling to China. And back then in China, there was still rubble on the street. It is not like the China it is today.
Sure.
They were still developing. And I feel so blessed that I was able to see that development as well. In China, we started off working in a condo. So we were designing from a dining table. Wow. And then now we have a full-fledged 75 people team, 2 buildings. One is 3 stories and one is 2 stories now.
Wow.
So I was able to be involved in all of that.
And to see that growth.
Yeah, and see that growth. And because I started from the very bottom, I was able to learn how to manage this team. And then eventually start my company, Evolution.
Talk about that. So at the point where you're in China and you're building this manufacturing source that would be your primary source of importing, when do you say, okay, or why do you say, I'm going to separate myself from this business, I'm going to rebrand? What happens after all of that work and all of that growth to make you say that, or to make you want to do that?
Yeah. Well, so many things had happened during the time I was there. I started Evolution Design Lab when I was 29 years old. And before then, had a lot of contracts with licensors, including Mudd, Kenzie, Mac and Jack, Vigos, and Bongo. And the thing with the contracts, some of them needed key employees involved. And one of them was Bobby Bruce Levy, who had passed away from brain cancer. And of course, this is something you cannot control. It was just a very difficult time. And my mom, of course, lost her best friend. She went through a lot of mental pain and suffering. So pretty much I lost 2 people there, the 2 key people. And my dad, he tried to help out, but it's kind of like Rip Van Winkle. You can't just come back after 12, 13 years. So much has changed during that time. So he did not know exactly how to help, but he tried. And my mom was just saying she'd want to shut down the company. Again, all those contracts and everything. We tried to help her sustain that company. We ended up closing their company around 2013. So we were kind of doing 2 companies at the same time.
Sure.
2009, I didn't like the idea of the contracts. So I was like, why don't we start our own brand? Why do we need all these contracts where there's so many rules to follow, key man clause, etc. And we have to pay royalty fees, and they're not even doing that much marketing. I want to own our own brand so we have more power. We don't have to deal with direct to retail. Where Mudd, as an example, was bought out by 3 separate companies while we were building the shoe brand for them. Again, Mudd Footwear ended up being over $110 million revenue in footwear alone. That's how big we built that brand. Denim ended up being only $25 million in revenue. This is per year. But the problem is we didn't own the brand. We did everything for them.
So these were the contracts that you wanted to separate yourselves from.
Yes.
This is how business had been under Bobby and your mom and your dad. And you saw this as an opportunity to break free from those.
Exactly. So we started Jellypop. And a lot of the shoe people, they knew me growing up. They saw me as like a young girl writing notes. And back then, there wasn't that much turnover in department stores, buyers. They were the same for many, many years.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, Jennet, we know you. We believe in you. We'll buy from you. Of course, I had to pitch the brand and like work really hard. But
of course.
Because they knew my background, they were more willing to transition some of the brands to my brand.
And you continued manufacturing out of China, out of those same buildings, the same group of 75 people. That was all the same. So you didn't have to reinvent that part of the wheel.
No. Yeah. We just worked smarter and then built our own asset in many ways, our own brand and control.
Even when you're coming back and working with those brands as private label, how are you able to maintain so much control when ultimately it's their brand on it? Is it just the way you enter into those contracts is saying like, these are the 5 things that you can tell us what to do, but really we own this process?
Right. So the private label is not as big.
Okay.
And then there's another label that we built, for instance, just for JCPenney. It's Pop.
Okay.
That's still ours. But it's almost like negotiating. They help us with constructions. You need thousands of pairs to amortize construction costs. So in many ways, for the people we don't want to sell Jellypop to because of competition with others, we say, okay, we could do a private brand for you. We could help you as an agent in many ways and build for you while also they are helping us make sure we reach the minimums of the constructions that we have.
Got it.
So it's also like a business model for us.
And all of that is born of what you learned in all of those years, what to do and what not to do. So you eventually go back to college. You finish at FIDM, right? Yeah,
I finished at FIDM. And then, so I studied Apparel Manufacturing Management. I was a fashion designer. I learned how to sew, which is very helpful. I learned how to merchandise, do the business side. Yeah, I learned so much from there. And actually, one of my first friends at FIDM is still working with me today. She's been working with me for over 20 plus years.
Wow.
I made some of my best friends from there.
Wow.
She's my most loyal. She's my work wife.
We should all have one. Yes. We should all have a work wife. That's amazing.
Eventually, I actually had 2 kids after FIDM. It's crazy. I totally did not take a straight path.
Yeah. Nor did I. So
sometimes
that's probably why we like each other.
Yeah. And then I went to UCLA to study psychology because then after having 2 kids, I was like, I want to learn child psychology. And also I was married young. And I was like, I need to learn how to deal with my husband. So again, applied education.
At every turn, yes. I love it. At least there's a consistent through line in that story. I love it.
I just love the major psychology. It has helped me throughout my life with people, with employees, with friends, with boardrooms,
I have no doubt. I mean, you can't get to, look, anybody can launch something. That's the easy part. Growing something, sustaining that growth, working with people, that's the tough stuff. And so I think you had it modeled for you, but obviously that psychology degree came in handy because you've been able to do so many of those things so well. You've been working nonstop, as you've shared with us. Like, you really haven't had a break. As you step into this midlife season of your own life, how do you care for yourself? We're focusing on self-care in this mini series that we're doing.
Oh, nice.
How do you focus on caring for Jennet when there's so much pulling at you and there's so much that needs your attention and you've been doing it for so long?
It is like a marathon, like you too. Yeah. I mean, you're incredible. I mean, we're board members, we're grade level reps. I met you at Picture Day, and you were so incredible at getting these teenagers to get in line.
If only really we could monetize that.
I was like, Netta Jones is incredible. She was able to get all these teenagers gathered
they were
together.
Very unhappy with me. It's okay. It's okay.
I've been working a lot. The thing is, I love to be productive. Productivity really makes me happy. If I have a blank calendar, it really throws me off. And if I
be honest, when was the last time you had a blank calendar?
I know. It's been a while. Yeah. But it truly makes me happy. I feel like I see my mom who retired early because she just couldn't deal with it anymore. she's had to deal with a lot of anxiety and depression because she worked her whole life and she didn't build up hobbies and didn't give back to the community because that's not part of the culture, to be honest.
Yeah.
She didn't have a community outside of work.
Yeah.
Her best friends were her employees. Actually, she hired them because they were her friends.
They were her friends. And when you say the culture, you're talking about the Chinese or the Taiwanese culture specifically?
The Chinese culture. And, I love to be busy, but there was a time in my life, actually, that I found a big bald spot on my head. And I was like, where did that appear from? I didn't even know it slowly came out. That's how much I was not taking care of myself. And then I started literally having a comb over. I would put it over. And then that's when it was a huge wake-up call for me. Even though I was tired and all this, it had to be a visual wake-up call. And now I make sure I have the mental health. I actually started seeing a therapist about why I'm so busy, why I do so many different things, and understanding that. And also exercising. I try to exercise. I don't exercise that much, 2 to 3 times a week, but that's good for me. And I walk my dogs. That's like meditation for me, walking my dogs. So, and I'm trying to meditate more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So learning to really care for yourself, even though productivity and being engaged in your advocacy work, in your work, in your family is also important. You still see the value, right? That bald spot forced that.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's not unusual for women, that it takes a physical thing to get our attention.
Interesting.
This has come up in a few other conversations I've had recently, and that's been the focus, is why did our health have to be at risk? Or something happened to us physically before we could see the need for these things. And I think we cast off self-care. We just put out today on the website, self-care is more than a spa day, right? Here's what's required in those things. And I think, to your point, it's much needed.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something I said we were going to go back to earlier. And when you were getting teary about the people that had poured so much into your life and how much Bobby meant to you and how much even this woman who's been working with you since FIDM. Oh, and you had said people wearing your shoes, that really meant something to you. Seeing people literally and figuratively step into something that gave them a sense of pride or a sense of can-do spirit. That's something that you've taken very seriously. And your advocacy work, I would say, is just as important as the work that you're doing in running this company. Tell me what, especially because it wasn't a part of your culture, what inspired that? What inspired you to say, advocacy work is important for me? This is something I want to play a role in my life, especially among Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander women.
It's my kids. And I always say, I mean, all 3 of my kids, but especially my firstborn, who's a girl, a girl, boy, like you.
Yeah, like me.
She was also very similar to me, but questioning Asians. My parents immigrated here. So I was just like, okay, my mom doesn't believe in this, so therefore I should kind of not believe in this, but I'm fighting back in a way for the company. But when it came to my daughter, she's like, Mom, this is not right, especially during COVID. In 2020, I think she was 17 at that time. So my daughter, Kathleen Chen, she's very opinionated. And she's like, Mom, this is not right. And then I started saying, no, it isn't right. I need to help my daughter and this next generation of AANHPI community. I need to help represent. I can't just sit around and expect my daughter to do it. So she's organized a protest, actually, at Pasadena City Hall. And that really spoke to me. I was like, if this young girl could do it, I need to not be afraid and speak up too. So anything related to helping the Asian community, there's so many now that popped up, especially became even more popular after 2020. I will support in some way. So I'm also a part of the Asian Business Association, sponsor Teach AAPI. I went to speak to the Fed Chair, Jerome Powell, in Asian American Month, representing as the only Asian on that group. So normally I would say no to all these things because I'm like, oh, this is way out of my comfort zone. Even with this podcast, it's kind of out of my comfort zone. But I really appreciate that you even asked me.
Of course.
And of course, it's you. So I'll say yes to anything you ask me to. But it's incredibly fulfilling building the confidence for other Asian women and women. It's not just advocacy for Asians. I really think small businesses like ours need a lot of help, as well as young people in general, any race.
Yeah.
I support everyone who feels the need to belong.
Yeah.
Because I was bullied when I was younger. So I feel great empathy for anyone who has a little more of a challenge.
Who's been marginalized, who needs that sort of support.
Exactly.
I can say most of the people who come on this podcast are people who have created something post 40, that they have launched something new. And you were an exception for a variety of reasons. One, I thought it was an interesting story to talk about somebody who's done something for so long, which is very unusual today. Most people don't have a 25-year gold watch, storied career kind of thing to talk about. And you did. But in that, there's an evolution of how you then step into midlife as a different woman and take things on in a different way than your mother. The other part of it was so much of your advocacy work started when you were in midlife, and you being able to take what you built, your platform, and support other women, myself included. You've been a great support to me, just in giving me advice and sharing what you know about business with me. So, and I'm not Asian. So what you're saying is true, that your work is to support people who are on the fringe in whatever way. And women in business are on the fringe. I hate to say it. We're making great strides.
That's true.
There's more of us. There's a lot of marketing towards us, but we're still not getting the money we need. We're still not getting the support we need. And so we need to continue to do that. And I thank you for the work that you've done in that space. Go back really quickly as we're talking about women. The shoe industry is primarily made up of men.
Yes.
How do you deal with that as a woman in an industry that's really surrounded with both bro culture and an age-old history of being that way? How do you break in? Never mind that you also have the Asian piece, the woman piece, this was a continuation of something that your parents had started. What difficulty has that created for you, and what doors has it opened up?
Again, I was in a lot of meetings when I was young. So Phil Knight wrote a book, I think the title is Shoe Dog, right? It's an actual term in the footwear industry. There's so many, and they call themselves this, old shoe dogs. It's no longer, but it was a big fraternity of guys who are all friends with each other. Yeah. They talk about football. Every single meeting I was in when I was younger was literally about football. And I was thinking, oh my God, I know nothing and I don't care about football. I'll just pretend I'm writing notes and smile and get them some drinks.
Yeah.
I can't believe I did that. But then I was thinking, I need to learn. But honestly, even if I learned, they wouldn't care what I thought. We had to have male salespeople because of this. And I was just thinking, this is not right. And I knew that things had to change. A bunch of men are controlling $1 billion business of footwear. How is this possible?
We're the wearers of most of that footwear.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Even to this day, you look at the department stores, a lot of male brands, Sam Edelman, Stuart Weitzman, Mark Fisher. Anyway, that's Steve Madden. That's all an example of how male dominated it was, and kind of still is, but not as much. So it was very difficult in the beginning, but that's all I knew. In 2009, it was incredible. Again, this is around the time I started Evolution Design Lab. And by the way, I love the word evolution because it's all about evolving and altruism, giving back, community. Only the strongest survive.
Yeah.
during that time, I had this incredible woman in my life who is the head of 210 Foundation, which is a big foundation within the footwear industry that now I'm on the board of. And she saw me, like she took me under her wings and introduced me to all the women she knew in the footwear industry, including Diane Sullivan, Anna Bax, Diane Sullivan was the head of Vera Wang, Sam Edelman, Famous Footwear, all these huge brands, Carlos Santana, etc., Fergalicious. And then she was the CEO of Brown Shoe Company, which is now Caleres. And then she introduced me to Anna Bax, who is the head of Michael Kors, and Carol Bayaki, who is the head of all Macy's buying team. All these legendary women. Beverly Goldberg of Floorshine Group, who became a huge mentor to me. She introduced me to them, and then we became founding members. There was like 10 of us, of women in the footwear industry.
Oh, wow.
And I represented the young girl and the only Asian in the group.
Double whammy. Yeah.
Double whammy. And it was incredible because suddenly all these women started popping up and going to our meet and greets. We started doing panel speaking, like even before Create and Cultivate or Liberty Road. We started doing that within the footwear industry. And it really inspired a lot of the women. And now, like actually, I have buyers here. I was like, I'm busy. I'm going to be on the podcast.
We'll hurry.
They're all women.
Hurry. Oh, that's awesome.
No, don't worry. They're all women now. And we talk about kids, birthday parties.
Not football.
Aging parents. Not football. And now my husband feels left out.
You're like, oh, well, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
The name is Evolution, so get used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He is used to it now. And he's always like, that's my boss. Yeah. He's very supportive.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So that's basically having all of those women step in, open those doors, taking you under their wings.
Yeah.
That's what made the difference in this all-male shoe game,
exactly.
as you call it.
Now it's completely changed. And even in the board meeting, we had a board meeting with the 210 Foundation. Once we started talking about bringing back Wi-Fi more, I was surprised. All the men from the CEO of New Balance, like really high Deckers, who does Uggs, they were like, yeah, let's do it. This is a great organization. It was the men who was like so excited about it. So it's just incredible seeing the shift.
Yeah.
That men they know they need to support women.
Sure.
And they have daughters now too. So it's just completely changed and it's incredible to see.
Yeah. I think a lot of how my husband views his colleagues, he's in the financial industry, predominantly male. I think that his shift is largely because of raising Sophia and wanting a future for her that looks different than what I had access to.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I have to tell you a funny thing. I recorded a podcast right before you with Garance Doré and Emily Yeston, who's her partner in their new product, Doré. And guess what book came up?
What?
Shoe Dog.
That's so
Isn't
crazy.
that weird? That's
weird.
So weird. Yeah. I have to tell them that too. So going back to that self-care piece, what lessons, based on what you learned, based on, your own, the hair situation and all of that, and the time that you're taking to exercise a few days a week, to walk the dog, to give back, what of those lessons do you want to pass on to your children, but your daughter specifically with regard to self-care? What message do you want her to learn?
I would have to say going to your event at Liberty Road opened my eyes. I was like, perimenopause? Oh my gosh, should I be worried? I'm 44 years old. I was like, oh my gosh. Because again, it's not part of my culture to be proactive about our health.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Just being educated and be proactive with doctors, I would have to say, and be surrounded by incredible women and supportive men. I think the circles, once you get to your 40s, have to be very strong. You only have so much time.
Yeah.
Right? So I surround myself with incredible women like you, just really having a purpose in life. You're not there just to gossip or whatever. You want to use your voice to help people and help the next generation. You're educating. Actually, speaking of education, I had those things about education as I was younger questioning it, but I actually think it's so important to continue learning, listening to podcasts like Liberty Road or How I Built This to feel like, oh, you're not alone. Yeah. I love podcasts.
I do too.
Like I'm still going back to school every summer. I'm in the Stanford Executive Program. And then I eventually, when my youngest, who's 16, graduates, I'm going to go back to school. Yeah. Because I know what I want to learn now. Again,
what do you want to learn now?
I still want to learn business. I feel like I can never learn enough about business. And I also want to learn art because I love art.
So I'll make a deal with you. So we both have 16-year-olds.
Yes.
And when they graduate, let's do one of those things together because I want to go back to school too.
That.
I want to go back to school too. And then I also want to tell you, I happen to have it here. You have to read this book. It came out yesterday, and all of your health questions will be answered here. Dr. Sharon Malone, and her podcast with me came out today. So listen to that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting us in on both your story and the things that you want to pass along, not only to your daughter, but to other generations. It's such a joy to just chat with you and go a little bit deeper into your story. But you're not off the hook yet.
I love chatting with you. I love chatting with you. Any excuse you've been so busy. So this is my way to chat with you.
We can find it. We can find another way. We can find another way. Well, you're a foodie, and we're going to get into that in a second. So we can share a meal one of these days.
Yes.
So our Fast Five, what is a daily practice that keeps you grounded?
Well, taking care of everyone I have to take care of keeps me grounded. My mom, who is not the most positive person in the world, she's always like, why are you so busy? Why are you traveling so much? She does not even know that I have spoken to the Fed chair or talked to Martha Stewart or am on the Female Founders 100 because I know she doesn't care. So I don't even tell her. All she worries about is if I've eaten.
Yeah.
Or if I've taught my children. And then walking the dogs, that's always humbling, having to pick up after them,
And I can't believe that I haven't said this on the podcast that you were in, was it Forbes 100?
Inc.
100. Inc. 100.
Female Founders.
That's no joke. And I did see that lovely picture of you with Martha Stewart. So going from that to walking the dogs, there's a balance. It's the balance of those two things, we'll say, that keeps you grounded. Yes. That's amazing.
And also, Netta, you may know this, but also taking care of a teenage boy is very grounding for any teenager.
You don't need to tell me that. That right there is another podcast. Yes. That is another podcast. But yes, they will keep you grounded. Yes. And I'm sure you're reading lots of things, but what is something that you're reading right now?
I actually have this right in front of me. It's the Tao of Self-Confidence. I just went to the book signing. And it's by Sheena Yap-Chan. She's talking a lot about moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually talking a lot about the trauma for Asians.
Oh, interesting.
Which is very interesting. And then getting past that. And another book, I just want to shout out to my friend by Jessica Chen. She's launching this in July.
Yeah.
It's Smart, Not Loud, How to Get Noticed at Work for All the Right Reasons. I love these empowering books and just how do you empower other women. And we're doing a book launch party at my office here in Pasadena for her in mid-July. You have to come.
I want to come. I like that title too, that sometimes I think we think being heard means being the loudest person in the room. And in fact, we get to bring of our own wisdom is how we nuance the conversation, how we invite people into that conversation.
I think that's such an important note.
Yeah.
Like, don't just talk to talk. Let's be impactful and listen to each other and make a difference.
I want to hear what she has to say about the book. Yeah. I just said you're a bit of a foodie. I love on your Instagram just watching some of the things you're eating sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh. So maybe a favorite meal or a favorite restaurant?
Yeah, I love eating. And my favorite type of meal is hot pot. And the restaurant that I just tried is that I would love to recommend is Makia Wagyu Shabu House. It's an all-you-could-eat shabu. And that's kind of like a hot pot in the middle. And we have to go sometime. And you could sit there for 2 hours and it's just great.
Is that here in LA?
Yeah, here in LA. And my cousins took me there for my birthday. We never see each other as much as we used to. They're like my sisters. We grew up together. And it was just nice. We had 2 solid hours just eating and talking, catching up.
The best.
That's why I love to eat. It's like a great way to get together.
Yes, yeah. Or the culture I grew up in, Egyptian, that's all they did. People brought food and you sat around for hours and ate and compared which mom made the best of whatever. That was always fun.
Yeah.
What is something that you're loving about this season, professionally or personally? This season being midlife.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I have 2 kids in college now and 1 left. So I feel like this is the beginning of my life, actually. I feel like back then I had only 2 buckets, pretty much trying to be the best mom I could be to my kids, trying to be as present as I could outside of the traveling, and then being the best entrepreneur boss I could be to our team.
Yeah.
So now I have a little more time for self-growth, and I've joined other organizations I didn't feel like I had time for before, like YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization. Yeah. And there's just incredible people within my forum who are supportive in all aspects of life. And there's 7 men in my other forum. And I have to say, those men are so supportive also of me as a leader. It's truly incredible. All of them have daughters, actually. I think
maybe that's why.
I love daughters.
Yes.
They changed and transformed
yes.
men, and just continued learning. I have time for that. Speaking engagements, doing podcasts, sharing my story now.
Yeah. It's an important one to tell.
Yeah.
As hard as it is sometimes.
Yes, it is hard to tell. And so many people have amazing stories. I don't even think I have that great of a story, to be honest, because I know it so well.
Yeah. I don't think we realize the impact of our story on someone else because it is ours. It's all we know.
Yeah.
It's in telling those stories that we realize that we have something to offer. And so we should be telling our stories. And I'm so glad you came on to tell your story today. One last thing. This podcast is called Liberty Road. What is being liberated mean to you? How has your work as an advocate and a founder of Evolution Design Lab, how has it liberated you?
Knowing I could actually make a difference is incredibly liberating. I don't do this to impress anyone. That's not my thing. Knowing that I've let people feel like they belong or help other women like you, and being surrounded by other women who are strong founders, like Vanessa Du of Health Aid Kombucha, or Ellen Chen of Mendocino Farms. Like, being able to connect with them, that is so liberating. Like, oh my gosh, I found my people who also want to make a difference in people's lives.
Your words are at the heart of why Liberty Road exists, to make sure that women 40 plus feel seen, because society hasn't been built to see us, and that it's not over, and that if you woke up this morning, you still have something to offer. And in fact, you are primed to offer more. You have more connections, you have more wisdom, you have more practical experience. You know what you want to advocate for. You know what book you might want to write. There's so much that you finally know. This is the time when we need to be seeing each other and creating opportunity for each other. So thank you for those words.
So well said, Netta. You're incredible. Every time I talk about what you're doing, everyone's like, that's such a great idea. They're like, how come no one else thought of that?
Well,
helping 40-plus-year-old women and creating a community.
Yeah. We got to do it, right? We got to do it. The need is there. Thank you for participating and sharing in that, and teaching everyone who's listening that there's a story for them to tell. Yes. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you, Jennet. Is there a way that they can get access to Jellypop?
Oh, you mean buying from Jellypop?
Yeah.
So we sell at Famous Footwear, Shoe Carnival, Belk. You could just look up Jellypop and it'll pop up. You could even go to our website.
Okay.
Jellypop.la, and check out our Instagram with updates, Jellypop Shoes.
Awesome. And then the next podcast I do with you is when you come on with the Jennet Chow line of shoes. Okay?
Oh my gosh. Okay. By the way, can I share that Netta Jones' last event totally inspired me? Also with Elise.
Elise Lunan.
What was it? The 7 deadly
Yeah.
sins. And just that whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still not too old to do something new.
Thanks, Jennet. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, I appreciate you, Netta. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And Liberty listeners, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out with Jennet and with me, and we'll talk to you next week. Liberty Road is broadcast on all platforms: Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and more. If you like what you've heard, please follow, rate, and review Liberty Road on Apple Podcast and Spotify. It helps us to know if these episodes are inspiring and equipping you to move into your middle third with intention. Liberty Road is created by executive producer Netta Jones, supervising producer Elizabeth Wyndham, producer Julia Wyndham, and music by Jack Jones.
Hi, this is Paige from Giggly Squad, and I want to talk to you about Splash Refresher and my water intake. Okay, so you guys obviously know that I'm a hydrated girly, but sometimes when you drink that much water, it starts to just taste bland, and you're just like, I need something to spice it up. That's why I love Splash Refresher. It has 0 sugar, 0 calories, and it's a splash of sweetness. And they come in 5 different flavors. They're so good. Wild berry, acai grape, pineapple mango, lemon, and mandarin orange. My favorite is the wild berry because I just love a berry. So if you're like me and you're drinking water all day, then try Splash Refresher. It's going to absolutely change your water game, and it's good for you.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. You know, I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle Grow is simply the best.
Feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that you are not getting enough daily fiber. Metamucil's fiber helps promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. It gels to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Get better digestive health for a better you with this easy way to get more fiber. Find Metamucil at your local CVS. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended